Hello, everyone. Guten Morning. Guten Morgen from Frankfurt. We are here live from the Frankfurt Book Fair in day 2 of the special edition of No Talks from the Frankfurt Book Fair. And we have with us today Mr. Philipp Kövener, Director, Trends and Innovation Scouting at the German Trade and Invest, GTAI, who is with us live from Berlin. Good morning, Philipp.
And a very well morning to you as well.
Thank you. So our session today is entitled Startup Ecosystem Outlook, Where Do Governments Stand? Before we start, just quick housekeeping remarks. First of all, I'd like to tell our dear audience that interpretation is available. We have interpretation into Arabic and into French. All they need to do is just press the interpretation globe on the bottom of the screen and mute original audio for better sound. Also, for any questions you may have, please write them in the questions and answers box, and the team will be addressing them if there's anything technical, and if there's anything, any questions you would like to ask Philipp, I will be addressing them during the session. So Philipp, before we start, can you just tell us a bit what you do in the Germany Trade and Invest, just quickly?
Yes, of course, I would love to. So maybe for those, and this might be the majority who have not heard of Germany Trade and Invest, we are a government agency. We belong to the Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Action, and we do, well, business promotion and investment promotion. So we are the Federal Investment Promotion Agency, Business Promotion Agency of Germany. And me and my team, we do tech and startups, which means we try to build the German startup ecosystem, to develop the German startup ecosystem, and to make it more international. This is basically why I'm here today.
Great, thank you, Philipp. Also, I need to mention that the GTAI, as you said, it's the Economic Development Agency of Germany. And in this agency, you yourself, you promote the Digital Hub initiative internationally. So I believe you will also be telling us a bit about that in your presentation. So you can share your screen. I know you have a presentation, so please.
Thank you very much. Just a second.
Thank you.
So just to check, you can see my presentation right now, right?
Looks great.
Okay, thank you. So for everybody, it's a bit strange. I can't see you now. I can only see my presentation. So I hope you enjoy the next 50 minutes or so. I'm Philipp Kövener. As just announced, I work for Germany Trade and Invest, which again belongs to the Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Action. Over the next 15 minutes or so, I will tell you something about the startup ecosystem in Germany and how we, as a German government agency, try to support it and to develop it to make it thrive. And as also just said, we call it, so our program is called the Digital Hub Initiative, but I will dwell on it a little bit later in a few minutes. So maybe before I start about what we do and how we try to build the startup ecosystem, maybe some background information, again, for those who are not that familiar with the German startup ecosystem. Well, so this is Germany. You might have seen it. And this map actually shows where German startups are located. And if you maybe see a comparable map of France or the UK or some other countries, you will see one big difference. And this is Germany and Germany's economy are very diverse and very widespread. So there's not that one central hub, such as maybe London or Paris, where there's the vast majority of startups. Startups in Germany are basically where the industry is. And as you might know, since the manufacturing industry in Germany tends to be largely in the south. So there are many startups in the south. This is just the main, let's say, takeaway of this slide. The German startup ecosystem is widespread. Of course, if you look at Berlin, 17% of all startups in Germany are in Berlin, even though Berlin is not that big a city. I mean, it's basically 4 million people, but in comparison, there are very many startups in Berlin. And maybe some of you have heard that Berlin is the main startup hub in Germany. These are Germany's most successful startups at the time, our so-called unicorns, i.e. startups valued more than 1 billion euro. Just to give you a few examples, maybe you have heard of some, you probably have not heard of all of them. On the top left, there's N26, a bank. On the center, in the bottom, there's Gorillas, which is a food delivery startup. And on the right, there's Flixbus, a transportation startup for people. So the industry sectors where there are Germany's most successful startups are also very widespread. It's not that there's the mobility sector, which is outstanding out of all the others. No, it's also very diverse. And maybe something to brag. The Startup Heatmap Europe 2022 voted Berlin as, well, top startup hubs in Europe, which makes me especially proud because I live in Berlin. But also you see Munich here on that lovely list. So again, keep in mind, Germany has not that one hub, it has various. If we look at some key figures and some industries, so in 2021, roughly 3,400 startups have been newly founded. There have been 1,000 funding rounds and some 17 billion euros of VC funding. And if you look at the industries, it's no big surprise that the ICT sector is by far the most important one for German startups, followed by food, retail consumer goods, healthcare, and automotive, and other industries. Business models, also no big surprises. SaaS, by far the most outstanding business model, followed by online platform and others. So you could say, that let's say ICT and SaaS are what most startups in Germany do. By the way, if I should talk too fast for the interpreters, please let me know and I will slow a bit down. If we look at female founders, you see here that there has been a little bit of an increase from 2020 to 2021. Something between 17 and 18% of all founders in Germany, of all startup founders in Germany, are female. This is still not very much. I mean, this graph looks looks kind of impressive because of this bump in the end. However, it still means that 4 out of 5 startup founders are male, and this is something that the German government wants to help with. Also, investments are reaching a high. I'm sorry. Reaching a high, or did reach a high in 2021. However, you still need to know that in the European comparison, other countries provide more money for startups. There's more VC money around, there's more public money around, and this is also something that the German government tries to help with. But the key takeaway here is startup investments in Germany are on the rise. I told you various times that Germany has a very diverse infrastructure. This is probably the main, let's say, takeaway so far. The second very important one is that universities are very important for German startups. So 10% of all German startups are direct university spin-offs. 26% of all startups are founded within the ecosystem of a university or research institute. and 15%, let's say some 15%, have been founded not, let's say, as university spin-offs, but with support from university or research institutes. And this is why the German university landscape is very important for German startups. I speak a lot to German startups, and I'm always very surprised, well, not anymore, basically. I was very surprised in the beginning how many startups have been founded as university spin-offs, or let's say in the direct or indirect proximity of universities. I also mentioned it various times. The German government tries to support German startups, or let's say startups in Germany, because the government realized that the German, let's say, infrastructure and the German economy provides various possibilities for startups, but there are also, well, some flaws, some areas for improvement. And the most important one at the very top, the German government wants to strengthen financing for startups, and also, since this is very important, help to attract talent. We are well aware that we are in a, let's say, competition for talent. I don't like the word war for talent, but in a competition for talent. And many startups, next to, let's say, access to financing, face the problem of access to talent. Then the German government wants to facilitate the setting up of new businesses digitally. So basically to make setting up new startups easier in Germany. The government wants to strengthen female entrepreneurs and supporting diversity in startups. So as I said, 4 out of 5 founders are still German, and the German government wants to, are still male, and let's say German, and we want to increase the number of female found or international founded startups. So diversity in all its aspects is very important to the German government. We want to even facilitate startup spin-offs from universities, well, and to improve the policy environment for social startups. I mean, the startup strategy is very long and has very many measures, and I don't want to go into detail, but these are the key takeaways here. The German the German government wants to help startups, well, putting foot down in Germany and thriving in Germany. And here is how we come into place. We are one government initiative in Germany, the so-called Digital Hub Initiative. What the Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Climate Action did is they set up 12 hubs all across Germany. Each hub is a physical location where there are startups and established companies. I'll give you a few examples. For instance, in Hamburg, there's the largest port in Germany. So we set up our logistic hub there, which means logistic startups and logistic companies sit there working together on the future of the logistics sector in Germany. And the good benefit for startups is they get direct access to large corporations, i.e. to their clients, potential clients. Sorry. Another example might be Frankfurt. Frankfurt is maybe known to some of you as the banking capital of Germany, which is why we set up our fintech hub there. Again, banks and financial companies sitting there together physically and virtually with fintech startups who again work together on the, let's say, the future of the financial sector in Germany. Third example, maybe let's take Munich. You probably have heard of companies such as BMW and Audi, so the large car manufacturers in Munich. And again, startups and established companies sitting together and working on, well, on the future of the mobility sector in Germany. Why did we set up 12 hubs and not one? And this is again my first slide, basically. As the German economy is very diverse and very widespread, we wanted to take into account the individual strength and characteristics of each region. So we said it, well, it doesn't make sense to set up a centralized mobility hub maybe in Berlin, when the mobility companies are in Munich. And this is the basic idea. Currently, 4,000 startups are in this initiative, so in these hubs, and well, 2,100 and some partners. This is basically what we do. So we combine startups, SMEs, large corporations, investors, and science companies in these hubs. And we have them mix and mingle, do projects together, do collaboration projects together, do cooperation together, in order to strengthen the startup sector as a whole and the German economy. Maybe very shortly, as I said, the Federal Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Action is the umbrella organization of this. We, as Germany Trade and Invest, do the international part. And then there's a national agency who basically connects the hubs with each other. Because, as I said, we have not one hub, we have several, and it's actually some kind of work to have them connect all the time, to do something together, to do joint projects. To give you an example, we have an AI hub and a logistics hub. And of course, it makes sense that those two hubs and the startups in those hubs and the companies in those hubs do joint projects on, for instance, AI in logistics, right? And this is why we have an agency that coordinates the collaboration between those hubs. Yeah, and this is just some examples. So one of our startups is called Wandelbots, and they did a collaboration with Volkswagen. One of the logistics startups is called Motion Miner. They did a collaboration with Renus. And another example is Smart Lane, a startup, and they did a collaboration with Deutsche Bahn. So this is basically the idea. The startups get access to funding, to large corporations, to partners, and the corporations, they get access to new ideas, to new technology, to a new approach to their core business. And in the end, all the players in those hubs benefit from this. I think I can go over my next slides a little bit quicker. So we have various national key activities. So we do, of course, PR and media relations. We do workshops with those hubs, and which you see on the bottom right, you have very many kinds of programs, such as startup scaling programs, female scaling programs, hub journeys, innovation guides, and actually many more activities. On an international level, we take part in international expert discussions. So we raise awareness for this initiative, and we try to make it more visible. We do international marketing campaigns to attract international startups and talent who want to come to Germany for this initiative. And of course, we take part in global tech fairs and conferences. And this has basically the aim to take the most promising startups of our hub ecosystem and bring them to the leading tech fairs in the world, such as, for instance, Web Summit in Lisbon in 2 weeks, or Slush in Helsinki in, I think, 4 or 5 weeks, but not only these. So we go with our startups to the most promising tech fairs and help them this way to explore new markets. What we also do is we organize VC dinners and events. So as you might know, if you're a little bit in the matter, VC business is a people business. You need to get to know the people with the money as a startup. And this is why we bring together our startups physically with VCs. We do receptions with political decision makers, and we do all kinds of, let's say, formats for international networking. And this is how we try to, to develop the German startup ecosystem, right? We have various national and international activities, how we try to support the German startup ecosystem, i.e. the Digital Hub Initiative. Now, maybe the call to action. So if you are a startup and you are part in this initiative, you get more visibility, you get access to companies, you get access to the German market very easily, and you get access to talent, plus all the perks which I just mentioned. A company who joins this initiative gets, of course, access to the startups. They also get access to talent. And I think, I just mentioned what they get. They get the fresh ideas, the fresh technologies from the startup. And if we see an investor, if they participate, they get their pipeline filled. So I'm constantly approached by investors who say, Philipp, we are, I don't know, an investor from the UK. We try to get more into the German market. We need to find promising startups. How do we get access to them? And we basically connect them to promising startups from Germany and help them basically fill their pipeline. So in a nutshell, there is a benefit for startups, there's a benefit for corporates, there's a benefit for for investors. And we believe that by combining all of these, there is a benefit for the German startup ecosystem as a whole. And this is how we try to support the German startup ecosystem, to build it and to develop it. And this is basically the end of my presentation. I think I can now stop sharing my screen.
You can now see yourself.
I can now finally see myself.
But Philipp, just to assure you, like the audience could see you all the time. We could see you in the presentation. So
thank you.
Yes. So I commend your efforts at the agency in this startup, in building this startup ecosystem and facilitating the work for founders. I have some questions for you and also some from the audience. So first of all, I'd like to know from you, what are some differences and similarities of the German startup ecosystem in comparison with other European countries? Let's say France, for example.
Yeah, that's a very, very good question. And I get this asked rather often. So if you remember my first slide with the German map, you saw the many bubbles and the various locations with the startups. And this kind of reflects the German political system. So Germany is not a centralized country, right? Germany is a decentralized country with very strong states, which means that each state supports their respective startup ecosystems, and we, as a federal initiative, have and like to work together with the states. So it's not central; it's decentral. There are hubs on various levels, and I think in France you have La French Tech as one rather monolithic organization who is basically the French startup ecosystem, and we are only one large part of the German startup ecosystem. So in a nutshell, it's decentralized versus centralized, and this also reflects, let's say, political decision making. So if we want to talk to the hubs on a region level, we have to approach them, we have to convince them that what we do will help and support them. We cannot tell them to do something in a certain way. So centralized versus decentralized is maybe the key takeaway here.
Great, thank you. And what does the German government do to attract and support startups?
Yeah, as also maybe as in my previous slides, they they issued a national startup strategy, which I think was a very important step. So they combined all the measures which there are in Germany, and there are lots of measures, into one concise strategy. So finally, there is not, let's say, a bundle of programs and support measures and issues which all happen somehow and which all work somehow. No, they combined it, and I think the idea is to really combine the strength to get the best possible outcome for the startups, and to be as effective as possible. So this is, in a nutshell, it's the German startup strategy, and programs such as us.
Okay, just to give some tips to our audience, what should the foreign startup need to know if they consider coming to Germany?
Yeah, this is also something, of course, which I get asked a lot. I think there are some aspects to consider. So I think for most startups, establishing a salesperson is the most important first step. So most startups want to establish somebody in Germany who finds partners, who starts getting the money in, so to speak. And this is probably a very good first step. I could only recommend that this person speaks German, because many people in Germany, and especially the large corporations, they have a very good level of English. However, the final 5% can sometimes only be achieved in the mother tongue. So my suggestion would be, if you come to Germany, if you plan to come to Germany, and you want to start your business here, you should have somebody who speaks German. And the second is, don't underestimate the complexity of German administration. So there are various papers you need to sign, and various, let's say, administrative steps you need to do. And also for this, having somebody who speaks German is very helpful, because not all the paperwork is available in English, and not necessarily every desk officer in some administration unit can speak English.
Okay, so for this language barrier, it's irrespective of where the foreign startup wants to is interested in going, like irrespective if it's Berlin, Hamburg, let's say Frankfurt. So wherever, it is better to have someone with them who can speak German, right?
I think it's not a question of geography. It's rather a question of business versus public. So if you speak to businesses in Germany, let's say to I don't know, let's say Bayer or BASF, they will have a very good level of English, a very good one. However, if you talk to the public hand and to the public sector, you might be lucky that the person has a high level of English, but maybe you're not. And if you desperately need to fill out some paperwork by tomorrow, because otherwise you will not have your permit to do your business, then you should have somebody at hand who speaks German. I can tell you that if there's a startup and want to come into Germany, I mean, the good news is there's help, right? I mean, there's agencies such as us, public ones who are basically for free. And also, I mean, the hub system, which I just introduced, they also have people who will help foreign startups. So it's not, and this is maybe the third important message, use the existing help and support mechanisms, such as Germany Trade and Invest or the Digital Hub Initiative. So we are here to help foreign startups. We want foreign startups to come to Germany, and we are aware of the complexities, and we want to help.
Great, thank you. So how can the efforts of Germany be scaled up, and how can countries co-innovate? It's what are some examples that Germany is doing on that front, and what are the benefits?
Sorry, the my audio was a bit bad.
Yes,
could you just?
I was asking, how can countries co-innovate? So what is Germany doing on that front, and what are some benefits?
You mean on a government level?
Yes.
Yes, I mean, this is also something that's very dear to us. So we, as a German government institution, we don't only think German, we think European. And there are various European initiatives which the German government is part of. And I mean, we are in very close exchange with other business promotion agencies. So whenever we visit, I don't know, let's say Web Summit, we do many talks before. and we, for instance, meet with the Portuguese business promotion agencies. But we don't only meet with them, we think, how can we do something together? How can we combine the German and in this example, the Portuguese startup ecosystem? What actions can we do together? Can we do, I don't know, a startup exchange? Can we do some joint programs? So the key answer here is close collaboration and close contact with our European counterparts, and always think what we can do together, and let's say think outside of our little German box, think European.
Great. You mentioned in one of your slides, there was a slide about the percentage of women founders in Germany and how it has increased a little bit in 2021 to reach 17.7%. So I know there is an increase and it takes time, but of course this increase is not as much as needed. You have mentioned that the German government wants to help in bridging this gender startup gap, but how is it doing that? And how can governments do that in general?
Yeah, I mean, I think the question is where to start. So startups are tech companies, and I think one answer is to get girls basically interested in studying technology or tech, mint at university, right? So you get more girls interested in technology in school, and women to go into I don't know, like the mint. Sorry, I'm just missing the word. So into the mint course at university, right? So we need more female coders. We need more female programmers. So this is, I think, one part of the game. So to start early and get girls and women interested in tech, but also help female founded or female managed startups by providing them, let's say, a stage, by helping them get more visibility, and by helping them network. So getting women in tech and supporting them by programs and by visibility would be my take on this.
Great. A question from the audience: how can startups deal with global challenges such as spiking inflation rates, disrupted supply chains, and labor shortages?
Oh, that's a biggie. Well, it sometimes depends, of course, of what you actually do. So if you are a startup, you most likely have to do with non-tangible goods, which means that usually supply chains don't affect you that much. So if you provide software, if you provide code, I mean, you are still reliant on supply chains, but not that much as if you produce paper, for instance. We have one startup, just to give you a counter example. They have their sales and business offices in Germany, but they have their coding department in Vietnam. So there are 3 founders, 2 German, 1 Vietnamese, and they basically made their unique founder structure their benefits. So they basically profit from globalization and from the, I think, rather cheap labor costs in Vietnam as compared to Germany. So I think the answer on this one is not very easy, but you need to find your sweet spot, basically. This would be my answer on this one.
Thank you. Another question from the audience: you have spoken about non-tangible goods. So how often do you encourage new tech startups related to cryptocurrencies, NFTs, and the metaverse? And what measures do you take, especially considering like setbacks, recent setbacks in NFTs and in these new tech areas?
I'm not quite sure if I got the question, actually.
So yes, so how often do you encourage new tech startups related to cryptocurrencies, NFTs, and the metaverse? Like, are you a bit hesitant in supporting them? And like, what are the measures that you take?
All right. Sorry. Yeah, now I get it. Well, I think this is rather a question not directed at me directly, but rather maybe at our fintech hub. So they would be the ones who could really answer that, because they do business and they have cryptocurrency startups in their portfolio. So I think I couldn't answer on this one because my knowledge into cryptocurrency is not that deep. But if the person who raised this question would like to go a bit deeper on this, please feel free to reach me afterwards, and I shall connect you with our fintech hub in Frankfurt, and they can much better help you with this very specific question than I can. So please reach out to me.
Okay. The person who asked this question, his account name mentions Dubai Tours Bank, so they can reach out to you. Another question: what are some reforms that took place at national levels in Germany? Maybe some that are IP related laws, commercial laws, etc., to guarantee an enabling environment for startups.
Well, I think there are some changes on the way. So the German government tries to make many things much easier, because they realized that especially the founding process for startups was still very analog and very cumbersome. And this would be the main measure that I would like to point out. Let's say founding of startups should be easier, more digital, and basically more English.
Thank you. I have a question from our dear economist, Dr. Khaled Al-Wazani. To what extent universities' business parks are helping and supporting startups in Germany?
Very much so. So you might remember the slides with the different percentages, but let me take a different angle here. So in most of our hubs, at least one university or research institute is one of the partners. So our hubs are very closely connected to the local universities, and as I said, the German university system is very important for the founding of new startups, and so you couldn't underestimate the effect that universities have, especially the tech ones, of course.
Another question from Fahd Al-Zahrani. How would you rate the experience of young entrepreneurs in Germany?
You mean business-wise, or?
It doesn't specify.
Okay, then let me say it like this. So I speak a lot to German startups, and especially to ones who came from universities, right? And the typical case is you have 3 young people, often male, as we just established, and they come from one of the leading tech universities in Germany, and they have this amazing technology for, I don't know, let's say something for the energy market, and it's very well designed in terms of engineering, and it's most likely to work very well, but they don't know how to pitch. So they did some pitches, but maybe their English is not quite well enough. Maybe they can't transport their message across properly. So what often happens is that you have young engineering teams with a very good product, but they somehow lack on the sales side. So this is maybe something in contrast to American startups, who usually know how to sell their startup and their product very well. So I think what German founders often need, not all of them, of course, but often need is how do I get my message across? How do I deliver a perfect pitch? And this is something that maybe especially engineering-led startups can do a bit better, because this is also very important, right? If you want to attract customers, if you want to attract VC money, you need to be able to deliver your message across in a short and concise manner.
Thank you. Reflecting on Germany as a startup hotspot, what business and growth opportunities does it provide for international startups that other countries could potentially replicate or offer?
You have this, we in Germany call it Mittelstand, the SMEs. So we have a large and broad band of small and medium-sized companies who are active in various but rather traditional industries, such as automotive, manufacturing industry, also health. And these are very important customers for startups who want to come into Germany. So I know that other companies, if you take Korea, for instance, they have large corporations and let's say a rather small number of large corporations. Germany has a big number of SMEs, and these are very important customers for international startups. And these are also very interesting. When I'm approached by international startups and they say, hey, we want to come to Germany, we are this amazing AI startup from Korea and we are aiming at the German, let's say, mobility industry, how can we get in contact to the big ones? I usually tell them the big ones are good, but you also need to consider the SMEs because there are lots of them and they have a high demand for digitization because usually they're not that digitized yet, but they see the need for this. So this is something, if I am, or if anybody is in international startup aiming to go to Germany, think if you can also approach the German SMEs because there are lots of them.
Great, thank you. How sustainable are, back to digital technology, how sustainable are startups in digital technology, considering the fact that there's a lot of apprehension for hacking?
Well, that's basically a slide. Before preparing the presentation, I had one slide which focuses on the sustainability of startups, and I decided to take it out. But I should have left it in. So I know that sustainability is for the vast majority of newfound startups a very important issue. So many startups don't only want to earn money or to grow big, but they also want to make an impact and to leave the world a better place, basically. So I know that sustainability goals are very important for German startups, and also this is reflected in the German startup strategy. So the German government also wants to support social or let's say or sustainability sustainable startups in Germany.
Thank you. Now back to synergies and cooperation and collaboration between countries. I don't know if you can answer this question. How do you see the future of GCC startup companies, and do they have an opportunity to cooperate with German companies?
Sorry, future of which startup companies?
GCC, the Gulf Cooperation countries, Gulf startup companies.
Well, of course. I mean, I couldn't participate, unfortunately, but my colleagues just came back from GITEX last week, so in Dubai, and we had a delegation of startups and hub managers with us. Or my colleagues had them with them, and they were very, very well impressed of GITEX. I've been to GITEX, I think 5 years ago, and I think the Gulf region is very important for the German economy. Not only as a hub to, let's say, the Indian Ocean and India, but also as a market. So I can only say that the Gulf region is quite important. And I know that one of our startups which we took, they raised quite some interest with the UAE government. So a positive one. So for us so far, this is quite a success story. And vice versa, I think Germany as a target market for GCC companies is also very important, and companies from GCC are very welcome here.
Yes, and you have mentioned GITEX. We participate in GITEX every year, and this year, as you have said, it was like really different. And once again, it has proven like another success story from the GCC and the UAE and Dubai. And it has become the biggest technology exhibition in the world. So another question also from the audience. Just a second. Yes. What are the main factors driving a dynamic startup ecosystem?
Well, that's good. That's a good one. So I would say there's not that one answer, but I can answer for Germany. So proximity to universities, which is important for founders and for talent. Connections to business, because this is important for getting customers and partners. And government attention. So a government who really sees the needs for startups and who understands that startups need support in a certain way. So earlier we compared Germany to France. And I mean, we could compare Germany to various other startup ecosystems or let's say business promotion agencies. I'm quite happy that the German government actually issued this startup strategy, because there are some countries who actually don't have that, and where startups are basically left alone. So I would say universities, contact to businesses, and a government who tries to their very best to support startups.
Great. That's it. So just one final question, just in a nutshell. Can you tell me, for developing countries, what can they do as a start to build the startup ecosystem?
Well, that's a tough question at the very end. I know that, let's say, in developing
just the
countries,
starting point.
Okay. Well, listen to your founders. Look at the people. Look at the young people who want to found companies, who want to found a startup, and try to help them by creating an ecosystem. This sounds a bit weird, but startups thrive when they are in the proximity of other startups. So if you have a number of founders who are all doing their business but who are not connected, maybe you could do a bit better by connecting them. So try, even if it's very low key, to create some kind of ecosystems, some kind of community between the founders. So this could be a very good first step.
Thank you, Philipp. This is a wrap. Thank you so much. The No Talks resume at 4 p.m. Central European time with a session with Stephanie Barnes, Chief Chaos Organizer at Entelechy, in a session entitled Flattening Organizational Hierarchies. And the special edition of No Talks from the Frankfurt Book Fair, brought to you by the United Nations Development Program and the Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum Knowledge Foundation, is also continuing till the 23rd of October with 2 daily sessions. You can see all of them on the same registration link. We still have sessions on fintech, on multidimensional poverty, private sector engagement in development, bioinformatics, sustainable urban development, and volunteerism. Thank you, Philipp. Thank you, our dear audience. And thank you to everyone in the back end, interpreters, social media, recorders, everyone. And also this session is recorded and will be available on our YouTube channel by next week. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Philipp.
Thank you. Feel free to reach out, and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.